Hello there. Welcome back to Swamp Bottom Junction. Now, I'm going to be doing a lot of voiceover work because aren't mobile phones great? It seems that sometimes, even when you're shouting into it from the other end of the room, it still doesn't record your audio properly. Now, we're just going to do a quick track update to kind of explain the basics of what's going on here, and then we're going to immediately jump into a weathering video. If only ADD made it that simple. So this is Swamp Bottom Junction. Now, if you're familiar with that name, it may be because you follow my gaming channel where I have been playing Railroads online. Now, I've been streaming it more than anything else, but I recently made a video showing off my layout on there that I called Swamp Bottom Junction, which is where I got the name for my model train layout. And over there, that video kind of did dam busters. So if you came over here from over there, thank you very much. And if you're going to head over there after here, thank you very much. I would really love to be a content creator someday, and whether that be through video games or the hobby, that would be amazing. Now I got power to the tracks. Now I haven't finished the layout yet, so my trains really only go from about here to here. And there's not really a great reason as to why I haven't finished the main line yet, but I'll go into it. It's more or less my nerves of not being sure if this is where I want to lock things down or not, and then discovering the issue with my switch as you can see me desperately pushing the engine through. So I'm not really sure where I got this little track connector. It came in a pack of HO stuff that I think I bought on eBay, so I'm not even really sure where it comes from, but you hook your alligator clip onto one side, you crank your power up, and then when you touch the other side, the LED comes on. And you'll notice here that as I start playing around with the switch and touching other places on the track, I got no power. And it turns out that this switch shorted out. I got a little staple stuck in one of the sides and I didn't notice. And I plugged this switch in, hit full power, and somehow blew up the switch. I mean, that shorted something out in the switch somewhere. I thought these were strictly mechanical switches, and somehow I shorted out the switch. And that's kind of resulted in me having to decide, am I going to run some kind of wire underneath and jumper the two together, or am I going to work around it? So the image on the left is taken from one of my previous update videos where we talked about the general shape of the layout and the yard, and just to give an example of what the footage is we're going to be talking about, which is the footage on the right, we're going to be talking about this one spot on the layout in particular, which is specifically the inside loop where all of my industries are going to be connected to. Now, I've never done a layout where it's this like figure eight double loop on top of itself. Usually if I do some kind of a double loop layout, I tend to put two switches on the outside main line to get to an inside main line, and that's my loop. I don't even use a universal crossover so that they're independent loops of each other, which means I can never run two trains because I run a DC layout versus a DCC layout where I could program the trains to not hit each other. So I have to do everything the old school way, which is fine. It's the way that I know how to do things and I enjoy doing things. And one day I will upgrade to a DCC layout. But for now, that requires me to do a lot of thinking about how I'm going to lay out these switches, because with them being butt to butt like they are, I have to make sure that I line them up properly for my two leads that hang off here, one for each industry. And that is a huge burden, because if I do not get this right, considering the fact that these switches are on a hill, I have to tear them up and do them over again. So it's pretty important that I get them right the first time. Now, that having been said, am I confident in the current layout of the track? Absolutely. I think I have finally gotten the position of those switches set up just right that I don't really need to worry about them anymore. I think the way that my hill is laid out and the way that I need to level out the ground for those leads coming off of those switches, it's going to be a little tricky, but it's not going to be the end of the world. It's going to be so much easier than fixing that derailing issue that I was having the last time I posted an update video, which, as you can see, I did fix. I was able to run that engine all the way around the track, and so far I have been able to run all of my engines all the way around the track without any derailing. And I think if I do have that problem again once I start soldering the track together, it's going to be easily fixable with some shims in some places, just to kind of waggle the track around just enough to stop that derailing problem again. Now, my hills are pretty extreme on the layout, and at the end of the day, are they realistic? Absolutely not, but I am doing the absolute most I can with the space that's available to me. Now, I do regret not going down to N scale, and I do regret not doing shelf layouts. For those of you who might remember, I wanted to do a 3-tiered shelf layout, which each tier having its own industries as well as its own themes, so that I could do multiple places in the country all on the same layout. Would that have taken a lot of time to have set up? Absolutely. It would have taken significantly more time to have set up and got going than what I am doing right now, even though the layout is very limited because of the scale. But I am also very familiar with HO trains, and there really isn't a whole lot that can throw me for a loop, we'll say. That derailing issue was probably the single most frustrating thing I'm going to have to deal with on the entire layout, and now that I have it sorted out and figured out, I don't really need to worry about a whole lot of anything else. I think I psyched myself out about those switches a lot more than I needed to, and for the most part, I think we're going to be okay going forward. Now, does that mean that I'm going to whack out the rest of that track, and the next time you guys get an update video, we'll be running trains? I have ADD, and sometimes I get really lazy, and sometimes I procrastinate, so who knows? That's why I've never given you guys a definite timeline on when I want to have things done. I would love to have my main line done by Christmas, but knowing me, it may not happen. Oops. It's just the reality of ADD and just putting crap off. I'm sorry, guys. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't. In any case, we're going to get on with the rest of today's video. We're going to be doing some little toy trucks that I got from the dollar store that actually turned out to be almost the exact same size as HO scale trains. So if you guys recognize these from the dollar store and you do HO trains, go check them out. Go grab a couple for yourself for your own layout. I don't think I'm going to have to do a ton of weathering for them to look good from a distance. They definitely aren't going to look good up close. That's absolutely for certain. These are not ones you're going to want to put at the front of the layout. You're going to want to put them at the back of the layout. But that means that you're going to be able to bring your nicer models toward the front of the layout and put them out in the space where everyone's going to see them, instead of sticking them in the back where no one's going to see them. You can put these ones in the back and it's not going to be the end of the world. Now, I'm not going to go crazy with the weathering because these are trucks. They are at least somewhat maintained, or at least they should be. And as a truck driver, I saw plenty of dirty trucks out on the road, but I did not see dilapidated trucks, and that's what we're shooting for. We're shooting for dirty, not dilapidated. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Oh boy, where do I start? Like I said at the beginning, I have ADD, and if only a simple project could stay simple. It turns out that hyperfixation and motivation oftentimes hit at the exact same point. And while I was holding these trucks in my hands after filming the intro, I realized that it really wouldn't take a whole lot to make them look relatively nice. I mean, they were going to look like toy trucks if I did nothing to them and just did some weathering. But I realized that with a couple of hours worth of paint that they could look pretty decent even at a distance. And although they aren't going to hold a candle to anything that you're going to be able to buy from a hobby shop that is meant for this sort of thing, they're gonna look good enough. If you've got 4 or 5 trucks lined up in a row in a parking lot, put your nice model truck at the front of the row and have these behind it, and you'll never know. It's gonna look good enough. And besides, there are plenty of decal sheets online from various different companies that represent all different kinds of trucking, and it would be super easy to get your hands on one of these and make them look even nicer than what I'm going to. And I don't think mine are going to look all that nice when I'm done, but they're definitely going to look a heck of a lot better than they did when they came out of the package. That having been said, if you haven't seen the weathering video where I weathered the model train cars, go check that out. I'm basically going to be doing that without the oil paints. I'm going to be sticking with chalk pastels and things like that for the weathering process. So I'm going to skip around during the painting process and show you a little bits and pieces along the way. I'm not really going to explain what colors I'm using. It should be straightforward. Just use similar colors if you want to follow along at home. You don't have to use the exact same colors. It's going to look just as nice at the end of the day, especially for a dollar store truck. So let's turn this kid's toy into a model, and let's do our best along the way. Now, before I show you the final result, I just wanted to show you some of the trucks I've been using on the layout so you can see that I'm not particularly picky that everything's in scale. The tanker truck should be the correct scale, but is quite old and comes from an old collection that I acquired. The Scooby-Doo truck should be the correct scale truck, but it's off slightly, and I'm not really sure who the manufacturer is. And the orange truck is a real old school HO scale truck, but is pretty old, as you can see, and we believe that it's at least the 1940, 1950s, somewhere around in there. So yeah. And here we are with the final result. I tried to give each truck something that made it a little bit unique and a little bit different aside from their loads. That way when I swip and swap them around, because I know I'm going to mix and match them, it won't be a big deal. Now, I'm a little bit thrown on this express truck. I think I might actually just order some water slide decals and repaint it so that it looks like a Coca-Cola truck. I also think I went a little too overboard with the weathering on that one, but I had fun with it, and I think at the end of the day that's the important thing, right? We're having fun doing the hobby. In any case, yeah, these have been super cheap dollar store trucks, and although they're not perfect by any means, I think they look alright. And if we take a look at them compared to the ones that I've been using, I think we can all agree that the mix-mash of different ages of the trucks and the different origins of the trucks result in them just kind of blending in and working. So at the end of the day, I'm really happy with the final result, and the way I intended to use them, I think they're gonna work just fine. In any case, I hope you guys enjoyed this update video. Sorry it wasn't more of a tutorial. I just needed more time, and I also needed to get things done and had a very limited amount of time. So that is life sometimes. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. And remember, may your display case always be filled and your pile of shame never run empty. Until next time.